everyone. In this session, I am going to discuss about Victorian age. It starts from 1837 to 1901. At this time, Queen Victoria became the Queen of England in 1837. There were change in social condition: 1832 Reform Act, 1837 Chartist Act, and industrialization and colonial attempts of England for the sake of resources. England was at the top of the world, had become superpower, and had more than 50 colonies. This was the time on various changes on various grounds. Victorians were dealing with the problem of religious crisis. Young people didn't have faith in God, and old ones were also questioning on this because of the technical development. They were losing faith. It was the time of high industrialization, which resulted in great unemployment. England controlled more than 50 countries and 700 islands. The rise of science: Charles Darwin came with his theory of origin of species in 1891, which is called the survival of the fittest. This inspired lots of writers to go for a crime fiction novel, also known as Newgate novels. And after that, Benjamin, he started a group called Silver Fox School. These were the group of writers writing for aristocratic class, and Benjamin, in his famous work Sibyl, talked about two nations. He said that England having two nations inside, one which is very rich and the one is very poor. Youth was losing faith in God. That's why Victorian senior writers, professors of theology, they thought it is mandatory to bring faith in youth. So they started Oxford movement, also known as Tractarian movement. It was the time Italian Renaissance inspired Victorians like Robert Browning, Arnold, and Lady Browning. Condition of women in Victorian labor laws, which made women work for more time, less paid, and their wages were given to their husband. Victorians or England, they had set up companies in many countries like India, Australia, Canada, and other countries. They are colonizing these countries and took control. In England, they started getting cheap labor because they transported African Indian laborers at cheap cost. Arnold showed the passive or darkest side of the Victorians, and Browning showed the bright and positive side of this age. Then Tennyson showed the fine blending of Victorians' positivity and negativity. In 1832 Reform Act, Victorians for the first time set electoral system, but the voting rights were given to the rich people with the land rights. Then this act is reformed in 1837, also known as the Chartist Act, where the voting rights were given to the poor class also and the man without land, but the voting right is not given to the laborers and slaves. And voting right to the women is given in 1920 in a suffrage movement. So let's talk about Oxford movement. This movement is also known as Tractarian movement. A few professors of Oxford University like John Henry Newman and Edward Pungin, the clergies and the professor of theology, they decided to launch a movement to re-support the religion, and this is the reason John Henry Newman is called the intellectual father of Oxford movement. Newman and Edward wrote loads of pamphlets. It supported Anglo Catholicism and were of the view that Victorian advancement and development was actually the result of God, because God has chosen the white race as their weapon or deserving people. That is why they were reforming the rest of the countries. When Henry Newman and Edward started writing pamphlets and tracts, their long religious pamphlets were called tract. This is the reason it is called Tractarian movement. The movement was also supported by John Capel, Edward Marsh, and other writers. And the immediate result of Oxford movement is that theological studies were reintroduced in Oxford University and Cambridge University and in schools also. Earlier in private school, theological studies were banned, only classical literature were studied, then unnecessary rights were given to the popes, were confiscated, and the concept of divine right came to an end. So let's talk about the writers of Victorian age. The first writer is Lord Alfred Tennyson, born in 1809, died in 1892. He is also known as the father of Victorian literature because Victorian literature was divided into two parts. The writers supporting optimism like Browning and writers supporting pessimism like Arnold. It is Tennyson where we can find positivity and negativity mixed together. Tennyson became famous in his school timing when he wrote a poem, Timbuktu, and got Chancellor's Medal. He was the longest poet laureate after Wordsworth. He wrote Ulysses, written in 1842, greatest warrior of the Trojan War. Ulysses is an old man sitting with his aged wife near the hearth and he talks about his brave deeds. He was a Greek warrior who fought in a battle of Troy and played a vital role in defeating Trojans. But when Trojans were defeated, Ulysses came back to his country or his kingdom called Ithaca. But Ulysses and his commanders and other soldiers lost their way in the sea, and next 10 years he kept on wandering in the sea. So he came back to his wife and he became very old and he said, I am Ulysses. I have done lots of impossible tasks. I have killed demons, kings, and many legendary kings, and I can't die like this. My aunt should not be sitting next to my wife. Here he called his people to go for another journey. He says, our life is of a hero. We are not common people. And the most famous quote is, it is never too late to seek a new world. How dull it is to be unburnished, to make a pose, not to shine in use. And opening line is, I am the part of everything I have made. He says, we will go for another journey and they will go for another land, will discover it. My wife Penelope and my son Thelmix will take care of the kingdom Ithaca. This poem gives the example of Victorian positivity. After that, he wrote Tithonus. It is a dramatic monologue. Here is a handsome boy, Tithonus. He is loved by a goddess and he asks goddess to give him one boon. Goddess says you can ask for any boon, but that will be the only boon. He says, I want to be immortal, and goddess makes him immortal. But when Theonus asks to be immortal, he forgets to mention to be young forever. And when the poem starts, is already of 400 years. He is very old, his skin is touching the ground, and he is not able to walk, and the dramatic monologue starts. He says that one should not try to exceed the limits. If God doesn't want us, we should not do that. This poem shows pessimism. After that, he wrote Lotus Eater in 1842. It is Ulysses. Still wandering in the sea after many months, they have seen land and he asks his comrade to sail faster. He says, courage, and he pointed towards the shore. When they go to the island, they were very hungry and they found a plant, looks like a lotus. They started eating it, and the critics say that the plant of lotus was actually the plant of opium. So opium's effect made them drowsy. They become half conscious and they started celebrating the time of laziness. They said, why we should work hard? All we know that we have to die. We should enjoy now and should not go back to our homes. First word of the poem is courage, and last line of the poem is, no, we are men, better than other races, and we have responsibilities, we have our positivity waiting for us. We have to create history for them, and they start their journey once again. After that, he wrote In Memoriam. It is a long poem. In Memoriam, where Tennyson took 17 years to complete this. It is written on the death of his best friend Arthur Henry Hallam. In this poem, there is a small poem, Break, Break, Break. In this poem, he is standing at the beach at the shore of ocean looking towards the waves. When the waves are thrusting themselves on the rock, Tennyson becomes happy that the waves are also angry, and by thrusting themselves by the rocks, they are showing their anger. This is an example of objective correlative where the inner emotion are mixed with the outer existence of nature. After that, he wrote Lady of Shalott, Defense of Lucknow, Princess in 1847. He talks about the emancipation of women. Tennyson has written 2 or 3 dramas, Becket, Harold, The Cup, and Queen Mary. The next writer is Robert Browning, whose time period is 1812 to 1888. Browning became famous when he read poetries of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and he fell in love with her. He went and told her that your poetry reached my heart. After the courtship of 6 months, where Elizabeth Barrett's cousin helped them to be together, they eloped and went to Italy. She is 6 years elder to him. People wanted to Robert to be the poet laureate, but he denied and asked him to make poet laureate his wife, for she deserves more. His famous work is My Last Duchess. It is a dramatic monologue. It is a kind of work that deals with Italian Renaissance, dealing with poetry, painting, etc. It is a After that, he wrote Tragedy in 5 words and All Smiles Stop Together. After that, he wrote Andrea del Cedro. It is the story of a painter who has been deceived by his wife. The famous quote is, My moon, my everybody's moon. Everybody looks at her and calls his. English title is called The Faultless Painter. After that, he wrote Spy. The famous line is, I was ever a fighter, so one fight more the best and the last. After that, he wrote The Last Ride Together. It is an optimistic poem, and opening line is, Fail I alone in the words and deeds, all men strive and who succeed. After that, he wrote Porphyria's Lover. In this poem, a lover kills his beloved by wrapping her ponytail around her neck thrice. It deals with the supremacy or spirituality of love. After that, he wrote Pied Piper of Hamelin. It is a poetic justice, and the famous line is, In that city there were rats who fought with dogs and kills the cats, took babies out of the cradle. After that, he wrote Fra Lippo and Rabbi Ben Ezra. They both of these deals with the Italian Renaissance. After that, he wrote Grammarin's Funeral. It deals with teacher and student relationship. Student takes his teacher dead body on the top of the mountain for cremation because he dedicated his life after knowledge, so he is not a common man. The next writer is Matthew Arnold, whose time is 1812 to 1888. He is the most pessimistic writer of Victorian age. He was the follower of classical tradition. Arnold's theory of poetry was that poetry is criticism of life under the laws of poetic beauty and poetic truth. Arnold hated Victorian development. He wrote Dover Beach in 1867, and the famous quote is, The sea is calm tonight. The poet is talking to his imaginary beloved. He says, The sea is calm, and gives us the melancholic message. He says that life is full of tragedies. And next famous quote is, Sophocles long ago handed it on the shore of Aegean. The sea of faith was once too at the full and round earth. People had trust, they loved each other, they had affection, but the world now seems totally fake. And then poet gives a message, love, let us be true to one another. If we become true to each other, we can maintain our relation and we can change the world. The next line is, and we are here as on a darkling place, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. Here he says, the world is dark and dismal place where armies clashing ignorantly, world is full of chaos. On Shakespeare, his next work. In this work, he questioned other abide are questions we ask and ask to smile. After that, he wrote Rugby Chapel. It is an elegy on Matthew Arnold's father, Thomas Arnold. Thomas Arnold is credited with launching the private schooling system in Victorian age. Matthew completed this after death of his father. It was 15 years. And critics said that why did you celebrate your father after 15 years of his father's death? Matthew replied this to his mother in a letter. He said that I wanted to be my father, celebrated by the greatest writer of the age. Now I have achieved that, and that's why I am celebrating my father. After that, he wrote memorial verses on Wordsworth and Belinda B. After that, he wrote Thyresis. It is an elegy on the death of Arthur Clough. Clough was a friend of Arnold and was himself a writer in classical tradition. Clough's famous work is Armors de Voig and Both of Taberna. After that, Arnold wrote Shorab in Rustum. It is based on a Persian writer, Friedis. Friedis wrote a famous book, Shahnama. Famous quote from the book is, Truth set on the lips of dying man. After that, he wrote Empedocles on Etna. It is a dramatic monologue. Empedocles climbed on volcano Etna to commit suicide. He gives a message, talks about the futility of life and how he repel on this. The next writer is Christiana Rossetti. She is the part of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. It was the movement started by G. Rossetti, Christiana Rossetti, and her brother William Rossetti. Then she wrote her first work, Goblin Market. In this poem, there are two sisters who were supposed to be lesbian. There is a famous line, when one of sister dying of lust or symbolic lust, another sister says, eat me, eat me, eat me, drink me, drink me, drink me. It is regarded as a classic of LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. The next writer is James Thomson. He is famously called English Edgar Allan Poe because he has achieved mysticism in his work. His works are Sunday Up the River, Sunday at Hampstead, The City of Dreadful Night. The next writer is Edward Fittergall. His time period is 1809 to 1833. He has translated the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Omar Khayyam was a Persian poet and his Rubaiyat was discovered by Fittergall in a very interesting way. He was interested in Oriental romances or literature. He was looking for a new topic. While looking for a new topic, he was searching the books in the library and he eventually found a book which was written by Omar Khayyam. He translated this and the translated version is after 338 years of the main publication. Fittergall, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam has been restudied by Swami Paramhans Yoganand in the book Wine of Mystics. Next is Arthur Quiller Koch. His famous pseudonym is Q and his famous work is Oxford Book of English Verse. Here he has compiled all the poetries from 1250 AD to 1918. After that, let's talk about pre-Raphaelite brotherhood. This was a movement in 1850s by D.J. Rossetti, William Holman Hunt, Christiana Rossetti, William Morris. They formed a group of painters and poets, and they took their inspiration from painters. The question arises is that why they are called pre-Raphaelite. They supported Raphaelite's poetry. It is a kind of controversial thing. They were the painter poets and they were imitating the style of Raphael. D.J. Rossetti is the head of this group. He is famous for his work, The Blessed Demiurge. He is influenced by Keats. D.G. Rossetti's wife, Elizabeth Siddle, was a beautiful lady. She became the idol character of the group. And when Elizabeth Siddle died, D.G. Rossetti buried all his books in the grave as he said that his inspiration is no more, but his friend suggested him to publish the work, and then he excavated the grave, got the books back, and published the book in the world. D.J. Rossetti didn't like his middle name, Dante Gabriel Rossetti. After that, he wrote a blessed damosel. It is also a painting and name of the poetry. Next work is Sister Helen and My Sister Sleep. After that, a sonnet collection, House of Life, and The White Ship. The next writer is W.M. Rossetti. He is the editor of the magazine Germ in 1848, and he wrote only one poem which was published at the cover page of the magazine. The next writer is Christiana Rossetti. Her pseudonym is Ellen Ilium. It is believed that she loved William Morris but she could not marry and then she joined nunnery. Uh, she wrote Goblin Market. This book deals with the lives of two sisters, Lizzie and Laura. They go to buy fruits in the market. There are lots of merchants and they are called Goblin Men. They try to seduce these two girls, but the girls, maintaining the Victorian standard and to avoid losing virginity, they prefer to go for lesbian relation. Come by, so morning and evening, maids heard the goblins cry. Though the poem is considered to be a poem for children, Christiana Rossetti Goblin Market contains erotic undertone and disturbing reference of the darker animalistic races of human and inhuman emotions and behavior. A story of two sisters who fall into the hands of dangerous merchant goblin. Goblin Market is a cautionary tale that retries the idea of female companionship uh, is the remedy to treating male sexuality. This is how they have celebrated sisterly love or lesbianism. The next is William Holman Hunt. She has written the biography of all the writers of pre-Raphaelites and the movement. His famous work is Pre-Raphaelite and Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, published in 1905. The next writer is J. E. Mollis. He was a member of Royal Society and he made a painting, Krish, in the house of his parents, and then he wrote a poetry on this, Lorenzo and Isabella, Autumn Leaves. Uh, the next writer is A.C. Swinburne. His famous work is Atlanta in Calydon in 1865. Here he talks about the idle Greek tragedy and he celebrates this thing. The next writer is William Morris. William Morris is working for a society to pressure the monuments. The society is called Anti-Scrap Society. His famous work is The Earthly Paradise, and the Earthly Paradise title has been taken from Dante Inferno. It is based on Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. It has lots of stories, actually 24 tales. His another book is News from Nowhere. It is a utopian novella published in 1890. He has given a job to preserve the old monuments, building, architectures, etc. He also started two magazines known as Oxford and Cambridge magazine in 1856. So that's all about today's session. In next session I will talk about Victorian novelist. So if you like my video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.